All right, we are recording. Philip, thank you for coming for our next chat for To Your Eternity, Volume 5. Yeah. Yay! Philip, we are 5 volumes in. What do you say?
Well, Murphy, if we had started our first manga discussion together with To Your Eternity, which, by the way, I am enjoying overall, but I would have thought to myself, maybe I'm too old for manga.
Ooh, let's unpack that. Tell me more.
Yeah, well, I mean, last time I talked about, I whined about the choppiness of the storytelling. I don't feel like this one was as choppy as the previous volume, like volume 4, but it's still a little choppy for me anyway. And I wanted a little more in between stuff. I appreciate though that we got background to characters that just seem to just splash onto the page out of nowhere, like Tonari. We learn more about her, but I cannot figure out this character. She is all over the place. She's spastic and chaotic, and maybe that's the point, because she puts on this smile and there's a lot of pain underneath all of that, and that's just, you know, all you gotta do is smile and face the world. And maybe that's her lack of consistent personality is a result of her just putting on this front, I guess. I don't know. But there are other elements of it, like just parts of it that at first I was like, okay, we'll just go with that. We'll just go with that.
Why not? We're just licking people now.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, Hayase is back.
Yeah, that was quite the reveal, wasn't it? Did you know? Did you know it was her?
No, I didn't know it was her until this. So
really, you knew then?
Yeah. I thought that was her at that point. I thought, oh, I guess
no, until the reveal, until the mangaka spelled it out for us. I was like, what?
Oh yeah, because I mean, her face is scarred from the. And her hair is a little different, and you know, that sort of thing. But I thought, I think I realized that was her right on this page. I was like, oh,
why is she licking him? Why is she doing that?
Okay, that was the question. So in the twice at the end, she does it again. Obviously, she has developed a bit of an obsession. In the meantime, I mean, I had trouble figuring out her motives, her game plan. I had trouble figuring out, the whole thing was just sort of weird and.
You can feel some kind of way, but we don't need to be licking people.
Yeah. I do not know why. I'm guessing she has some kind of damage and some obsession that she developed after Fushi dealt with her in I think in bear form in the third volume, was it, when we left? I thought we left her behind.
Yeah, it was the third volume.
Yeah, we didn't have her at all in the fourth.
Yeah, well, she was in the fourth. We just didn't know it was her.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, there are certain things that just kind of came out of nowhere. Like suddenly, oh no, Fushi's turning into Perona, and I was like, no.
I know. Yeah, I liked that reveal because that was. We know enough now about it that we, as soon as we saw Perona, we were like, she died. She didn't make it. And I thought that was really well done, and we didn't know why. And then, you know, we eventually find out that, as you said, it is a bit of an obsession, because she told him, I did you a favor. I gave you a form that would be useful to you. But I don't know what her plan is. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I mean, she's a chaotic element in here, and Tonari is a chaotic element in here. I just feel like there's a lot of chaotic elements going on right now.
That's a fair observation.
And maybe I just have to learn to be uncomfortable a little bit with not knowing what's going on, you know?
Yeah, it is a different kind of storytelling than we've been accustomed to. We started with Vinland Saga, which was a far more straightforward story. We had a very linear progression, and there were some spiritual elements, and there was some, you know, visions and stepping outside of yourself. And there were those elements, but all those feel straightforward enough that we could analyze them directly.
Yeah.
And Vinland Saga leaned even more towards a lot of metaphorical stuff and a lot of spiritualism. And a lot more of speculating that we had to do, but it leaned into those Buddhist themes that you're very interested in. So it was something that you could engage with more directly. And then Monster was an experience.
Yeah. But
it was also, while it was all over the place and very chaotic, it too had a story it was telling that we were able to at least say, okay, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
Also, To Your Eternity, I just Googled it while you were talking, and it's a shonen. This might be your first shonen, so that may play a factor as well. You've been reading seinen.
So seinen is for the older, and shonen.
Yeah, seinen's target demographic is for the oldies like you, and shonen is for the youngies like me.
Okay. That was very subtle of Murphy. Nice.
But that might be a factor. There have been other shonen series that people have been like, oh, Murphy would fill up like this. And I'm like, no, he wouldn't. So it is possible that you're just more of a seinen fiend.
Maybe. I'm trying to get the most out of this that I can. And it's fun at times. It's whimsical and fun, but there's just a lot of just very abrupt, for my old eyes, storytelling, and very kind of just chaotic elements all over the place. And like, are these conventions that I'm just not familiar with? Sure. Or is this just how it rolls? Or is it just this particular manga that seems a little more, I don't know, just, it's not boring, you know? I'm just, at moments, I'm just a little like, what? Okay, I'm lost. So, okay, who showed up? Yay! All right, let's go with that. You know.
Yeah, so I will say
a lot of that.
For Tonami, what did I do with her name?
The mangaka?
No,
Tonari.
Thanks.
Yeah.
For Tonari, while I do agree that there's a chaoticness to her that I can't entirely pin down yet, like sometimes she seems quite spastic and like you don't know what side of her you're gonna get. There's also a lot of charm to her, and I have found myself very attached to her. So we find out about this lawless land, right? We see people hanging and we see people working, the different brandings that they get, and find out that in this island they used to send criminals to the island, and then it became so overwrought with criminals that was really all that was left to run it. So it's sort of this lawless land where killing is permissible under these certain criteria, and thieving is permissible, and like all these kind of, it seems quite lawless to me. And I don't know how much we're going to explore this, but I do feel like a certain amount of chaos has to come from being a young girl growing up in this kind of setting, you know, like it's not really being alluded to, but I can't imagine she's grown up unscathed, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And we get some insight into that because her mother was murdered. Her father apparently did something shady. We're not exactly sure, but as a kid, she believed that he didn't, but then later understood, yeah, dad did something wrong there. And that was just how she ends up there. So and just, that's not a place that's conducive to a happy childhood.
Yeah.
So I feel like she's a survivor. She's with that group of kids where she's by far got the most personality so far. We were introduced to each of them in this kind of fun, random way. Like, I like poultry, and I don't know, I like chairs. I know all about chairs. So that's poultry kid. That's chair girl. Okay, we'll just roll with that. Yeah. So the idea, though, that they are supporting each other in this environment, I like that. I like the idea that you have this band of kids and they're trying to get out of there. They have this ultimate mission to get out of there. And of course, you know, who comes along? Fushi. And it's like, well,
this is our ticket.
Yeah.
This is our ticket, because the way to get out is to win the sequence of fights and become the new leader of this lawless land, which means that you get to choose if you stay, if you leave, all this kind of stuff. So she's really kind of forced herself on him, which I appreciate, that in a manga where he regularly finds himself just with someone, be it because of circumstances or in Pjorn's situation, she forced herself on him too, but he accepted that eventually because she was someone that he was familiar with and because he recognized the love that he was receiving. And it's a little bit more of a tug and pull with why do I keep losing her name?
Tonari.
Thanks. With Tonari, because she wants something out of him, you know? So it's a little bit more like, I'm his manager. Everybody line up if you want to talk to me. Which is another thing that makes her a little bit harder to like, because it feels like she's taking advantage of someone as innocent and vulnerable as Fushi is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and she is too. And she knows it and apologizes for it. And I kind of wonder, how I think that apology is at least half sincere as well.
I think so too. It seems like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, he's like, I don't trust you. You smile in such a horrible, horrible place. And she's just like, cow.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I supposed to do with that? How am I supposed to interpret that?
I mean, that would seem to suggest that maybe it's like an understatement, right? Like, you know, and she's just laughing at the absurdity of that. Like, oh yeah, you wait till you see, buddy, you know?
Yeah, that's well put. That's a good point. And then we have the Black Cloak who tells him it's your fault Gugu's dead. And his death, he could have chosen to survive, but he chose to die for you. So it was some sort of soft suicide, and that's on you too. And I was like, really?
I'm not liking the Beholder very much.
Whoa, yeah. This was the scene that solidified. All right, I don't want anything to do with this. Get this entity out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's such a gross way to look at Gugu's sacrifice.
Yeah, well, I think it's a result of the Beholder being an entity that thinks of itself as superior to humanity. That it is an outside humanity. It probably is, if not eternal, very long lived.
Yeah.
And it has, in every way, shape, and form, it thinks superior, you know, intelligence, experience, et cetera, et cetera. So it looks at us as kind of like bugs, you know, as being, they're going to die. It's okay. You'll get used to it, you know. And, you know, from our perspective, that seems kind of cold. That seems kind of harsh. And I still say that long term, the Beholder is going to be humbled at some point in this series and have to learn from Fushi about.
I agree with that.
Passion and that sort of thing. So I'm not quite at the point where I feel like the Beholder is just evil or something, but arrogant for sure.
Definitely doesn't see value in life. Yeah, especially because even when we get Perona's form and the Beholder is like, wow, what a great form we have. What a great specimen. This is great for us. And Fushi's just mourning the loss of a friend. Yeah. So it all comes off so cold, but it's very calculated. It's very, these people's lives don't matter as much as ours. So we should be using them as tools.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, pretty much. Yeah, and that's part of this. And I, you know, we should be wary of people who have some big goal in mind and whatever the cost to get there, you know, it doesn't matter. You have to trample over all these insects on the way. Too bad, you know.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do the big goal, and that's all we need to worry about, you know. So.
No, I agree. We did also get a new form. What is it? Was it a platypus? What was that thing?
I thought it was a mole.
A mole. You're right, because it was digging.
Yeah.
Yes, we now can become a mole if we feel like it.
Came in handy a couple times there, right?
Yeah. It did. Although I do feel when he went into Pioran's cell as a mole and he was like, I'm gonna win this and we're gonna leave. I was like, yeah, cool, but you still haven't solved the equation. Like,
right.
You still can only get in as a mole. I guess if he wins and he's a leader, that solves the equation itself because he can say, release that prisoner.
Right.
I am curious to see what it'll look like eventually when we get to the point that we can leave, because he's made promises to several people. But like, how many promises can he make? How many people can he save? And there's bound to be more than just these few that are not, you know, leaning into what kind of circumstance this island provides. Like, there have to be some more decent people here. So who do you leave behind? How do you make that choice?
Yeah. Yeah. Good questions. And I think also in the meeting with Pure, I was struck by how she had accepted her place. Like, yeah, don't worry, I am a killer, you know, this is where I belong. Don't worry about me, just go.
Yeah.
And it's something that the Beholder says to Fushi as well, when he says, you know, these humans, they reach a point where they essentially accept that it's their time. So it's okay if you have to kill them, you know. And I wondered what your response to all that was, because there is a certain logic to it in a way, but there's a part of me that's just like, no, you know, that's not right, you know. And I have a feeling that you, knowing you as I do, I would feel like that would not be a very attractive philosophy for Murphy, right?
No, yeah, I understand what you mean. I think Bjorn had that same mentality when we first met her, when she was chained and shackled, and she was like, "Oh, I'm a prisoner too. I'm not really a seer. I've been lying this whole time." Haha. So I think, to me, she comes off as kind of the type of person that just kind of rolls with fate as it comes and expects, like, I'll get out of it. It'll be fine, or I won't, and that'll be fine too. So I kind of take her as, yeah, I'm captured now. I got free last time. Let's see if I can get free this time. And when she was telling him, don't worry about me, this is my fate, this is my lot in life, it was more of a selfless act of just, you get off this island, I'll sort myself out, but don't sacrifice yourself for me. And I think that that's kind of a sentiment that we see a lot of times in literature from an older generation of, I've lived my life. Let me handle me. You go live yours.
Yeah. What about the people in the arena, though, who basically, the Beholder seems to be saying, yeah, just kill them. It's okay. They basically, they're there because they really want to die. Maybe they don't really know it yet, but that's what they really want. So just give it to them and move on, you know?
Yes, I do reject that philosophy. I think that is a horrible, how often do we dehumanize our enemies in order to make, or just like humanity in general, dehumanizes people who stand in our way in order to make our path easier to walk. So it's like, yeah, you need to get to the top. So just pretend like they've already forfeited their lives. They don't want this life. Liar, you liar. They're fighting for a greater purpose as well. Just like we see with this one enemy who's fighting for his brother and trying to get a better future for them. So it's like, it's like you can dehumanize, or you can take a second to hear them and see that they're doing the exact same thing as you. They're fighting for a better life. I mean, some of them are probably evil, but
that's a really great point, Murphy, that you just made about the one guy that Fushi is fighting, and he gets shot. Fushi tries to defend him because people are shooting arrows at him, like, "Come on, we wanted somebody to die here," you know. And they're just they've lost their humanity. Those people in the stands, they just want blood, you know. And so he gets shot in the back, and Fushi essentially saves his life. And we get to know this guy. We find out he has a motive. He has a little brother he's trying to protect. He gets humanized. So exactly the opposite of what the Beholder says happens.
Yeah. He proves that point wrong.
Yeah.
Has he already forfeited his life, or is he fighting for another person's life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, speaking of, the first encounter we have with Bjorn is just through the wall, and she tells him, if you're moved by Perona's death, then do what she wanted to do. Give your all for those who seek your aid and help the weak. And immediately after that conversation, he has this battle with this man who we then get to know as he's injured, and he explains that he's fighting for his brother. And from there, there was an emphasis on Fushi learned from someone. He put himself in that person's position. He tried to understand them. And I think that there's a point to that emphasis on Fushi. Sorry. They're putting him on a new roof while I'm filming.
As long as it's not a knocker.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
It's okay. They are knocking. So yes, there's an emphasis on he's able to put himself basically in the role of another person without having to taking the person on. He's learning to learn from people in this way, and then continues on to do exactly what she said. He helps build a fire, and he promises, I'll take you out of here. And he's trying to serve these people and help their lives become better, help them be able to live, which I think is really a really big moment for his character development to learn how to do those things.
Yeah, I agree. He is taking on responsibility for people outside, for a larger group. And he's learning a lot about group cohesion from this ragtag bunch of kids who, in a crucial moment, speaking of knockers, one does show up in the midst of things. Yeah, right there and then, and boom, takes out the most formidable form that Fushi has at the moment, which is, Gugu.
Fire breather.
The fire breather. That's how he defeated this thing in the past. So it shows that the knocker has intelligence, right?
Yeah.
It strikes at a very strategic moment.
Smart. Yeah. Good observation.
Yeah. And then
he goes into mole form and then starts chewing. He's like, this is going to take a while. I'm like, bro, turn into something else. You're inside of it now. I know there's not a lot of room in there, but it seemed like there was some room. Turn into somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So he would have failed in this situation. Ultimately, would have gone back to Iraq or something if it hadn't been for that group of kids, and then even the townspeople that had just previously been assaulting his friends and were about to assault him because they were mad at the way their entertainment was going. They help out too. It was an interesting kind of strange bedfellows there in that moment where everybody started to rally together against this enormous, scary thing that was wrecking everything. So I thought that was kind of nice. And that Fushi ultimately, he shows learning right in that process as well. Like he produces the fire arrows out of his hands to help, take down the thing. And so that whole thing was definitely important for his development.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a good way of looking at it. I really like the action in this series. I think that the illustrations are gorgeous. The way she draws the knockers and shows their kind of looming force is really cool.
Yeah.
However, it's starting to feel stale to me. So it's always like, we're having an emotional moment. We're having a catharsis, and then boom, they arrive in that moment, and then it's the knockers over and over again. It's the same opponent doing the same sort of thing. And yes, we have new forms, so it changes up a tiny bit. But then Gugu was, you can't do this alone, so Gugu steps in and he helps you succeed. And now it's, you can't do this alone, so people step in and help you succeed. So it's between that and I'm attached to someone, watch them die, take on new form. I'm starting to see the formula and looking forward to seeing how that could potentially be broken up in the future. Yeah,
I think that's valid. That's a valid observation. That if this just keeps happening, well, I'm going to lose interest. If it's just a tiny bit of leveling up each time, and we're just losing people and seeing the knocker attack at vulnerable moments.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah, definitely. I would like to see something different. We got a different setting, I guess, in this.
And I like the setting. I think the setting is really interesting. I think part of it, too, is if we continue on with the formula, but just explore it a little bit more deeply, explore the themes of the circle of life and, reckoning with death and what we can learn from one another, carrying on the will and the desires of those that we love and seeing that through to fruition. I don't know. What are some other themes? If we dig into these themes a little bit deeper than we have so far, but keep the formula, I'll also be satisfied. I'm just kind of looking for a little bit more in one direction or the other.
Yeah. I have a very random question for you.
Yeah.
What is this baby on the cover of this volume? I know it's Hayase, and then are her goons or whatever behind her, but there's a little baby under her that she's straddling. Is it a metaphor? Is it a We're told that these are I know it's not the cutest baby either. Sorry.
It's pretty disturbing. I haven't actually noticed that.
Yeah. Is it a metaphor for the way Hayase is looking at Fushi when she's licking him? Is that a clue as to why she's licking him? I don't know.
Yeah, to do all that.
I have no idea what she's doing, but why is there a baby on the cover?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, was there a baby in this?
Not that I remember.
No. I mean, I remember there's one moment where there's a random woman who says, "Do you think my baby's cute?" And Fushi's like, "Yeah." She's, "Well, marry me," and she's like all over him because she thinks he's going to be the next leader of the island or whatever. I feel like we've been told that these covers are all dreams.
We have?
Yeah, like a commenter mentioned.
I must have missed that comment.
Every cover apparently is supposed to reflect one of the characters' dreams. So that's why the covers never really match what's inside a lot of the time, if you think about it.
That's a really good observation, actually. I'm now looking back and thinking of who's on the cover and what it represents. So does Hayase want a baby?
I don't know.
Like a symbolism of rebirth, maybe?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean...
Interesting.
I don't know. It is not the cutest looking baby either there. I'm sorry. I mean, they're all supposed to be cute, right? Kind of creepy.
People do say that.
Creepy baby. So anyway, maybe this will become more apparent later. And she also, if you look at her facial expression, she's not looking vengeful. She's not looking angry. She's looking like she's about to see her sweetheart or something.
She definitely has a weird presence and a weird relationship with Fushi in this volume as well, where she wants to give him the gift of a new form, but she also kind of taunts him. She does want to beat him, but she doesn't seem to want to control him.
Wants to control him.
Does seem to want to control him. I think that's apt. What did you think about when she defeated him in their sparring, in their match? And then immediately passed on her role to Tonari.
I do not know what to think of that.
Yeah, motivations are hard to figure out at this point.
That was part of the chaotic element passes on leadership to other chaotic element for no obvious motivation that I can.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's similar to how Tonari was introduced in this very random, like abrupt way, and then we deepen her character, which is standard for manga. That's not uncommon to introduce someone and be like, whoa, what? And then we kind of unravel them a little bit. So it could be,
No, the only interaction we know they had is that it turns out she was the hooded person. Hayase was the hooded person who told Tonari, get him on the boat. He's going to change everything. And so one assumes that she also would have been the person to get Tonari to abduct Pioran, I guess, right? The first thing that Tonari does is she tricks Pioran into essentially enslavement there on the island. So
yeah, it seems like it might have been like that, or it might have just been a coincidence. Like, okay, you're with him, so you're both coming. And then Pioran has this history behind her, which we know she's not squeaky clean. We already know that about her. Right. And so she's just automatically going into solitary confinement. So it could have been a coincidence. It could have been intentional.
Or Hayase knows that Pioran is Fushi's friend, and she wants to isolate Fushi so she can control him.
Yeah, that's a very good observation. That's probably it. a much better guess than what I had.
Maybe because that's what abusers do. They try to isolate the person they're abusing so they can control the person. Yeah. So I really think there's this is an expression of a disturbed individual here.
That she is.
Yeah.
That she absolutely is. I now wonder. Sorry, I'm just now looking at this again. Oopsie. Next.
I'm still very upset about Perona. I was really hoping. I guess we're gonna see her again. I mean, that's the thing about all the characters. The formula. Yeah.
You get attached to someone, you lose them. Now all he's left with are irreplaceable fragments.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to see where it takes us. I think we're leading to a breaking of him. I'm just now seeing too at the end of the volume is the wall, and it has everybody on it that has passed away.
Yes.
That's rough. But anyway, Tonari, she doesn't seem to take the bait that Hayase is giving her, where she's like, I'm gonna pass this on to Tonari or someone else if you think someone else is good. And Tonari is just like,
Tonari is a little clever.
Yeah, she doesn't even blink. She's just like, I'm going after Fushi. I'm gonna go make sure he's good.
She's like, that hag, right?
That hag.
What does she mean? My Fushi. You can't take him from me. So Tonari also wants to control Fushi, though. So they have a lot in common.
Fair enough. But I think that
we like Tonari, right?
We like Tonari. I think for her, there's a lot of excuses I can make for her. Like, she's trapped and she's in this lawless land that she can't get out of without his help. And so she's kind of trying to force her way into his life in order to make that happen. But I don't think that she's a bad person trying to do that. She just is, she may not be perfect, but I can sympathize with her desperation. Whereas with Hayase, I think that she has a little bit more ill intent.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like there is an almost intentional juxtaposition here of Hayase and Tonari, where the one is clearly here's the other. Okay. And Fushi's like, what are you doing? Stop it. He's being assaulted here, essentially. And she's like, oh, you poor thing. You are mine for the taking. Yeah.
Creepy.
That's kind of gross. But she has this fixed like expression on her face. And then immediately after, almost again, it appears in this panel that's Tonari in the same room, almost like looking for Fushi, saying, Immortal, where are you? Right? Yeah. Where are you? Open your eyes. So what we're actually seeing here, is it dream here at the end? I'm not quite grasping what we're meant to make of these last panels here. In other words,
I took it as a dream, but I'm not sure. Hopefully it'll clarify in the next volume.
Okay. Yeah. But clearly we're meant to understand that Tonari is coming after Hayase, and she's going to rescue Fushi from Hayase's control and tyranny, but to attempt maybe to assert her own control as well. So not entirely altruistic, but we're not going to blame her, I guess.
Not yet. We'll give her a little bit more time before we make those kinds of calls, I guess.
Plus Hayase killed Perona, which makes me really dislike her.
Isn't that just...
And says it like, oh yeah, I did this. And it really hurt. She suffered a lot,
Hateful.
Yeah.
Hateful. Yeah. I mean, she's the one that killed March too. So it's like just bringing at her, just finishing off everybody that was an enemy to her. And I know Perona is the reason that Hayase was left to burn and, all that. But I mean, not really the reason. She put herself in that situation. But Perona, we had that scene where she was like, everything's fine, as was it that she was aiming an arrow at her? Do you remember that scene?
Well, you mean when March was shot with the arrow?
When March was shot and Hayase was lying there burning, and March and Perona was standing over her.
Huh.
She didn't burn her, did she?
No,
she just left her there.
It was Fushi that put her in that state.
Yeah, so she's basically just coming around, and everybody that put her in this position, everybody that ruined her life by not being a sacrifice.
Yeah. It's almost worse for me. It's almost worse for me that it's off page. My imagination is running wild, thinking, well, what happened to Perona? With March, as awful and traumatic as that was, at least I can I have a vision of what happened, and
you can make peace with it.
But with Perona, I keep wondering, well, what did she do to her? So having it off page is almost worse in a way.
Yeah. That's a good point. It was probably intentional.
Yeah. So that was upsetting for me. I liked Perona.
So are you liking it enough to want to continue on, Philip?
Yeah. I'm intrigued. I want to see if this old dog can learn a new trick or two. So I'm gonna keep going. I have the next few volumes, so I'm definitely keep reading. How about you? How are you feeling about it overall?
I'm enjoying it overall. I think that it's so far an intriguing story. I think my perspective is basically just that I like it. I like the ideas in it, but it is, I'm starting to see the pattern. It's feeling a little bit repetitive. So I'm looking forward to seeing it step outside of what it's already established and go a little bit deeper, go a little bit farther. So
cool.
As long as it'll do that, I'll keep reading.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we shall see then.
We shall see. And we'll see next week on Philip's channel. So that is always linked in the description. Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the next one. Bye.